today we're going to be talking about going from stressed to your best. So we'll talk about some of the causes of stress, ways you can manage it, and some on-the-go tips, and then also a few recipes will be mentioned. So it'll be great. I'm Alyssa. I'm at my fourth year at UAA in the Kinesiology department. I just have a year left, so woohoo! It's great. I'm very excited. So it'll start to get more stress for me, but I'll use my own tips, and it'll be great. So that's who I am. I'm Alyssa.
Hi guys, my name is Oggie Pantovic. I'm coming from Serbia and I'm a student athlete at UAA. This is my fourth year and I'm playing basketball here. So today we will be talking about how to deal with stress during COVID-19 pandemic and how important it is to establish that. And also I'll be mentioning also my own tips and tricks how to beat stress. So
Okay. How many? Oh, there's a button. Okay, so to start off, I just figured it would be good to kind of talk about the background on stress and what exactly it is. So stress is definitely a natural physical or mental reaction. So that could be anywhere from emotional tension to physical tension, and it can be from anything. And there is good stress and there's bad stress. So exercising, that's a good stress. It's a short-term event and it really benefits our health. But bad stress comes in when our stress hormones are firing a lot longer and it starts to affect our well-being and how we're feeling and also our physical health. I put a few points that where stress will affect us physically. So it'll affect us in our digestion, our muscles, and our immune system, which is pretty surprising, but I figured it would be good to write that down. It also does the mental effects. So for me, I'll get more irritable when I'm stressed. You can have anxiety. For some people, depression. It can go anywhere from even headaches or migraines as well. And then one thing that we'll talk about later is sometimes stress will make you overeat or eat, just for any type of reason for you to cope with stress. But some ways that stress will affect us is it'll affect our breathing. And then moving on to digestion, what happens is when we have good stress, we'll have extra glucose going into our body for energy. But when it turns to bad stress, that glucose has nowhere to go. So that's where the digestion system kind of gets messed up. So it has to deal with all that extra glucose. And that's when you'll get acid reflux, nausea, heartburn, diarrhea, constipation. For me, when I get stressed, I get really bloated. It's weird. It's like I really have to try and move around because if I'm sitting down and I'm like doing a test or something and you start to get stressed, I'll get bloated. And it's not just, your stomach gets big. It's like kind of painful. So it's interesting that stress affects your digestive system that way. And then for muscles being affected, they'll just tense up and relieve pain. So that's where we feel it in like our neck or something in our back. And our immune system will weaken and have a reduced effect. So that's kind of around finals. You'll hear a lot of people getting sick. It's kind of related to stress. So we're more susceptible to getting an illness when we're sick. Now we'll go ahead and let Augie talk about some of the mental stress.
thank you, Alyssa. So yeah, I'll be talking. Alyssa already mentioned a lot of physical stress, and I'll be talking mostly about understanding mental stress. So you already see there's a first question: are stress and anxiety the same? In my opinion, anxiety is a part of stress, And stress is caused by an existing stress causing factor or a stressor, and anxiety is a stress that continues after the stressor is gone. So someone who is stressed may feel worried, down, unable to concentrate, or make decision, or they'll be irritable and angry. So I'll be talking mostly about emotional changes right now. So when you're stressed, you may experience many different things, including anxiety, fear, anger, sadness, or frustration. And these feelings can sometimes feed on each other and produce physical symptoms, as Alyssa already mentioned, and make you feel even worse. And for some people, stressful life events can contribute to some symptoms of depression. So when you're stressed, you may behave differently. For example, you may become withdrawn, indecisive, or inflexible, and you may not even be able to sleep properly. So you may be there might be change in your habits. Some people might resort to smoking, consuming more alcohol, etc. And stress can make you feel angrier or more aggressive than normal, and also affect the way we interact with our close family and friends, which was probably my biggest problem when I started experiencing anxiety and stress. I haven't even noticed that I was distancing myself from my family because um, um, I moved to United States, and I thought that like moving to United States was that's like a usual normal thing to like turn down communications with your family a little bit. But then I realized that that's not normal, and assumed that uh, anxiety can be a silent killer sometimes, and if it's really hard to see that. So my relationship with my family paid that price, but finally I was able to recognize that and change that. So stress can be caused by so many things, and sometimes we're not able to see it right away, and that's when it becomes a problem, like I already explained. So there are two main types of stress: acute stress and chronic stress. Acute stress, this is like a short-term stress that goes away quickly. You feel it when you slam on the brakes, have a fight with a partner, or ski down a steep slope. It helps you manage dangerous situations. So acute stress can be really helpful, and it also occurs when you do something new or exciting. So basically, all people have acute stress, and at one time or another. For example, coaches in sports use stress as a tool to improve their players by constantly putting pressure on them. So when the time comes and the player is under pressure, she or he knows how to behave. Well, on the other hand, we have chronic stress, which is a kind of bad guy here. This is stress that lasts for a longer period of time. You may have chronic stress if you have money problems, unhappy marriage, or trouble at work. Any type of stress that goes on for weeks and months, for a longer period of time. And you can also become used to chronic stress that you don't even realize it's a problem. So if you don't find ways to manage stress, it may lead to health problems. So I don't really think that I experienced chronic stress, but I experienced stress during uh, a longer period of time, and that was last year when I really struggled to balance my schoolwork and basketball duties, and it was so hard for me to like balance those things out and like be successful on and off the court. So I think that's my biggest reason why I had to experience chronic stress. So now I'll leave Alyssa to, she will talk about causes of stress. So Alyssa, here you go.
Yeah, so moving on to kind of like where stress come from, we'll talk about some personal causes to stress. Everyone's different, so I could react completely different to how someone else would in a situation. Um, and to start off, I think one of the biggest causes of stress lately in our society is kind of that feeling of workaholics, or the girl boss, always working. And I think it's because we're always have that like work hard, keep going. And so a lot of us bring home work or are constantly thinking about work. And that really causes a lot of information overload. And, we don't have all the time in the world, there's always something that needs to be done and we don't have time. So that's a big cause of stress for a lot of people. It's also could be caused from just not creating healthy boundaries. So when you don't have a healthy boundaries, that's when you kind of bring home the work. You're always saying yes to things, having a hard time saying no. And One way to deal with that is to create SMART goals, which we'll talk about a little later. But that's really great because it helps people set boundaries and really slow down and kind of, draw everything in and really analyze it. Another cause of stress could be due to insomnia. So that's really where you're either too excited for something or you're too stressed out and you're nervous about it, so you just can't get a lot of sleep. Another way you can get insomnia, which will cause stress, is if you're on your phone or you just don't have a great nighttime routine. And then Augie mentioned some minor causes of stress could be like if you're in a relationship, if you're arguing about something, or maybe you feel guilty for buying something. Work could be a stress, as we said, workaholic. Maybe you feel you're not doing enough, or maybe you made a mistake at work and you've been thinking about it all day. I definitely can relate to that one. I work at a physical therapist office, and someone will come in and my physical therapist will tell me to do something, and if you don't put the settings on the right level, it's like, oh no, how is that going to affect it? Are they mad at me? That kind of thing. But it's just one moment in the whole day, so you kind of just have to learn that, okay, I made a mistake, I learned from it, try not to think about it. But That's one cause of stress. Another cause could be in your personal life if you're dealing with abuse or arguing a lot throughout the day, not having a lot of communication. And then school is a big one for students. We'll go ahead and let Augie talk about some of the big stresses in the US now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just did some research and on some statistics about stress in the United States, and I found out that top causes of stress in the United States on the first place is job pressure, which is kind of crazy for me because that's definitely different from Serbia, where I coming from. So I realized that stress is based on on regions and like culture, and it's different from like not just continents but from country to country, as already mentioned, like culture to culture. So that was a really solid discovery for me. Also, the second one is money, which I realized like why in United States people are always stressing about money. So many people are getting bankrupt. Probably I haven't seen that ever before, like not even in Europe somewhere, like the people go bankrupt so easy like here in the United States. So I realized why that's so much big of a threat. And also health at third place. I also really understand why health is a really high. So basically the other ones are relationships, poor nutrition, media overload, and sleep deprivation, and globalization. So here on the right, I have some other statistics. So 77% of people regularly experience physical symptoms caused by stress, and 72% of people regularly experience psychological symptoms caused by stress, which was kind of crazy discovery for me because I thought that people were dealing with more with mental part of stress than physical. And according to these statistics, people are regularly more experience physical symptoms than psychological. So, and also 33% of people who there are 33% of people who are experiencing extreme stress, which is a pretty high number for today's society. So, as you can see, like when I did the first on the left side, the first 8 causes, globalization was actually not there. Globalization is the one thing that I added. And when I did some research about stress in the world in general, I actually find out some really interesting article talking about globalization, and I completely agree with it. So for me, globalization is one of the biggest causes of stress in today's world. And what I mean by globalization is development of technologies, phones, internet, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. And it opened up a whole new world of stress and anxiety that people could feel actually. So we can see like how stress developed from ages to now. So it is not only time consuming, but it also creates a delusional ideas of life and possibilities. And it started basically with young teenagers at first, because they had the biggest approach to the new technologies. But nowadays, even middle-aged people and older people are included there as well. There are good sides to having social media, but mostly there is addiction. Addiction is the worst part of it. So basically, even my grandpa, who grew up in a small village in the Serbian mountains with no electricity and no idea of modern life, he now created a Facebook as an 8-year old, so he can just argue about politics over there. So I think that's pretty crazy for me. So people, mostly children and teenagers, are having stress and anxiety over social media because they always see perfectionism over there, and they think that is how life is supposed to be. I caught myself a little bit in that way of thinking. I started being jealous of my friends because I saw some of them really succeeding in life. I have two of my closest friends. One of them is probably one of the biggest musicians in Serbia right now. So it was really hard for me to grow up in an environment like that because I was not successful as they were. So it took me some time, but I was able to think about it and realize that I'm living my own life, and it does not have to be like, I don't have to be like everyone else around me. It's in my own process, and I'm enjoying it right now, thankfully. So basically, a summary is the globalization process and wide application of informational technology is caused by severe changes in almost all fields of human work and business and just life in general. So I will let Alyssa continue to talk about eating and stress.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention about eating and stress because that is definitely something I relate to. And in class, we read about this article called Cookie or Clementine, and it was a study done by Laura Finch and a few of her colleagues. And it was a psychophysiological stress reactivity and recovery article. And it was actually really interesting because they wanted to see if eating bad actually helped with recovering from stress, or if that was true, then would eating healthy foods have a bad effect on your stress recovery. And it was actually really cool because they allowed the participants to write down what food they liked, and then they gave them a stressful event. And when they got done with it, they set them in the room and they were like, here's food. And they got the choice to eat either, the healthy food or the unhealthy food. And what they found was if you chose to eat healthy or if you chose to eat unhealthy, it literally had no effect on your stress recovery process. So a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to go home and, eat my comfort food after something stressful happens. But it literally has no effect on us. So what they try to tell people is if you're going to eat, at least try and eat maybe the healthier foods for your, wealth or well-being and nutrition. And I definitely think I should take that advice because for me, it's kind of like a cyclical process. I'll eat something bad, and then 20 minutes later, I'll be like, oh, I shouldn't have ate that. I feel bad now. And then, time will go by and I'll, beat myself up, and then I'll eat that again. And I'm like, oh no, I might as well just eat more. So I put this just to be like, if you're stress eating, it has no effect. It doesn't benefit us. So if you're going to eat, try and choose the clementine or the cookie, or do both. It has no effect, whatever you want. But that's just, I wanted to put that in there for a little bit of information about eating and with stress. And now I figured we'll move on to one way you can help yourself deal with stress. And that's creating SMART goals. And SMART goals are really great at helping you to achieve realistic goals and make you feel more accomplished and really motivate you. Because often what we do is we'll choose like really big goals, like, oh, I'm gonna lose like 100 pounds or something, and it's just like, well, let's break it up like tiny steps, crawl before we run. So the first thing you want to do when you are creating a new goal is to start with being specific. And so that kind of means don't be broad or general. Really try and narrow down exactly what you're hoping to accomplish. So, for example, don't say, oh, I want to eat healthy. Say, I want to eat 3 to 5 servings of vegetables a day. So that's pretty specific. That way you have kind of clear guidelines on what you're going to do. And then making it measurable would be something that you can actually see. So it's really tangible and it's trackable. So instead of saying, I'm going to go on a run or I'm going to run more, you could say, I'm going to run 2 days a week for 1 mile each. And that's just the first 2 letters in SMART goals. And Augie is going to go ahead and finish off talking about the other letters for creating attainable goals.
Thank you, Alyssa. So the other three are attainable or achievable, realistic, and trackable or time frame. So I'm going to talk about achievable first. So basically, for achievable, your goal also needs to be realistic and attainable to be successful. In other words, you should stretch your abilities, but still remain possible to do it. When you set an achievable goal, you may be able to identify previously overlooked opportunities or resources that can bring you closer to it. At an achievable goal, we usually answer questions such as, how can I accomplish this goal? How to accomplish the goal if you have uh, if you have the tools or skills needed, or if not, consider what it will take to attain them. Then how realistic is the goal based on the other constraints such as like financial factors, but it doesn't really have to be like financial factor. In my case, I want to be a professional basketball player, and saying that I will go straight to the NBA right after playing D2 college is probably not that realistic. But if I say, for example, that I need to play a couple of years in Europe and then maybe some experience, get good, and then maybe if our all stars aligned, go to the NBA. That's, I think it's more possible. So I truly believe that this goal is going to stretch my abilities, and it's probably very possible. So that's one example for this part. So the next one is realistic or relevant. This step is about uh, ensuring that your goal matters to you and that it also aligns with other relevant goals. We all need support and assistance in achieving our goals, but it's important to retain control over them. So make sure that your plans drive everyone forward, but you're still responsible for achieving your own goal. And relevant goal can answer uh, like questions to can answer to these questions. Does this seem worthwhile? Is this the right time? Does this match our other efforts, needs, and am I right person to reach this goal? Is it applicable in the current socioeconomic environment, and etc. And questions like that. So one of my recent goals was to buy a PS4, mostly because that was my childish dream since I was a kid to have possess a Sony PlayStation, and I was not sure if the goal was that important comparing to my other goals, like becoming, as I already said, professional basketball player or getting a degree. And buying a PS5 will definitely influence my other goals because negatively, because I'll be wasting money on something that is not really important right now. And I'm spending a lot of time lately trying to convince myself that this goal is not relevant at all and that I need to save money for goals that are really relevant. And one of those are not spending all stipend money until the beginning of the second semester. So I think that's a really good example for this step. And the last step is time trackable or time frame. Every goal needs a target date, that you have a deadline to focus on and something to work toward. This is part of the SMART goal criteria. help to prevent everyday tasks from taking priority over your long-term goals. If the goal will take 3 months to complete, it's useful to define what should be achieved halfway through the process. Providing time constraints also creates a sense of urgency. So ask specific questions about the goal, deadline, and what can be accomplished within that time period. So uh, a time-bound goal will usually answer these questions like when, what can I do 6 months from now? What can I do 6 weeks from now? What can I do today? So in future, I should be definitely spending less time on the phone, for example, during the night and be more proficient and get a better and healthier sleep so I can be rested in the morning and ready to go. So that's my example of this step. So now I will let Alyssa talk about the big deal. What's the big deal about the sleep? So here you go.
Yeah, so stress and sleep actually have a really big dynamic relationship. You don't get enough sleep, you might be more stressed, or stress makes you have less sleep. And one of the biggest reasons why this happens is because of cortisol. And when we have a normal sleep schedule, usually this hormone will go down when we're sleeping and kind of, reset our body, get us ready for the next day. But when our stress raises these levels a lot, we have an increased alertness to it. We have an elevated heart rate, elevated blood pressure, and it makes it really hard to kind of heal from all of this and get a good night rest. And we really need that because sleep is definitely restorative. A lot of people can have different sleep routines. It's flexible for everyone, and there isn't a real true definition for sleep health. So just the general census is like 8 to 9 hours of sleep, which I would love to get 8 or 9 hours of sleep, but sometimes that isn't always going to happen. But it's important to try and get as much sleep as you can because it is restorative to us. It's that REM sleep that really helps this to actually take place in our bodies. And when we do get enough sleep, it'll help to improve our concentration, our mood, our judgment. So that's why I used to be a very crabby morning person. But I started getting more sleep, and now I love mornings. It's great. But one way that I started to get a better night's rest was to create routine. So that could be, for you, you could be like, all right, I'm going to stop working at 6 or 7, and then I'm going to stop watching TV or using electronics around, this time. I'm going to go into my bedroom and not work in my bedroom at this time, and then go to sleep hopefully by like 10 or 10:30. Um, and some ways to make falling asleep easier, have yourself routine, stick to the schedule, but you could have a really cool room, which sometimes that's hard in the Alaska summer, no AC. Um, but you could have it be dark, so have blinds down, have a clean environment, so clean sheets, clean pillows, clean your room, which is surprising how a dirty room can really actually affect, how well you're gonna fall asleep or deal with that. But a clean environment is really good. Scents like jasmine and lavender, a lot of people love those, aromatherapy. I definitely have it on my to-do list to buy some. And lowering the use of technology is super, super important right before bed. It, keeps us alert and kind of interested in something when we should be trying to take it down. I feel like I always go into bed at like 9 and I'm on my phone and I'm like, it's already like 10:30. I need to be asleep by now. So just lower your use of technology right before bed. Working in a different environment than you sleep is super important. It's kind of hard right now because a lot of us work from home and maybe stay in bed while we work, but that kind of shifts like, oh, is this my relaxing zone or is it my working zone? And so we might not know what we're doing in that. It's like, am I in this room because I'm trying to work or go to sleep? So just separate that when you're trying to fall asleep at night. So that's really great things for sleep and stress. And we'll go ahead and let Augie talk about some changes in behavior because of stress.
Thank you. So basically, behavioral symptoms of stress of stress include changes in appetite, either not eating or eating too much, like Alyssa already said, procrastinating and avoiding responsibilities, which is very familiar to me, increased use of alcohol, drugs, or cigarettes, and exhibiting more nervous behavior such as nail biting, fidgeting, and pacing. So during these times, I think it's really important to direct our thoughts, our thought process positively, because a negative thought process can amplify the external stressors in your life to such a degree that they might be seem to become entirely unmanageable. In order to effectively cope with stress, it's imperative to maintain a positive and rational perspective. If you feel that you can control your thought process to be more positive, you're simply wrong. The power of positive thinking is within everyone's grasp, and it can have an extraordinary influence over the course of your life. When you expect situations that stress you out to go terribly, they probably will. So, however, when you maintain an optimistic outlook and maintain a positive or at least neutral thought process to approach challenges, you're much likely less to feel burdened by stress. So last year, at the beginning of the year, I really doubted myself because when we started playing, uh, when our basketball season started, I got injured multiple times and I couldn't really get into shape and to play. So for the first time in my life, I actually started doubting my own basketball skills, uh, and it started stressing me out like normally, and I was trying to like get out of that, and I couldn't really until I talked to my coach. I actually approached him and I told him like, hey coach, I have problems with that and that, and then he tried to set up my mind to think positively, and he showed me the power of it. And I started my year off the bench as a third big, and I ended up being first team all league when I changed my mind from being negative to being positive. So I think that uh, the biggest strength is our mind. So that's why I wanted to talk about this. So now I will let Alyssa to talk about combating stress as well.
So before we get started, I figured we would just take a small little break. One way to combat stress is to kind of set aside time for yourself. And one great way to do that is to do some stretching. So I
Yep.
figured we will go through just a quick stretch sequence here, just for all of us to have a little break in between all this talking. So I'll go ahead and take us through it. If you have longer time, like in the morning or at night or in between the day for a wellness break for yourself, you could do each stretch for a minute or two. We'll go through each stretch and do it for 30 seconds. To start off, we're going to go ahead and do a 3-way torso stretch. We'll do this for 30 seconds and then we'll move on to the next one. So we're going to start with just our hands raised in the air. Really reach as high as you can, and we're just going to turn to each side. Really feel it in your kind of in your lats, and then come back to the center. Do a few breaths here, and then we're going to the other side. I'm going to the other one. Awesome. Now we're going to do a quick shift to doing some neck circles. So I really love to do, start with clockwise for a few moments. Go as slow as you'd like. And then switch to counterclockwise. Really go as slow. Feel that tension. All right. When you're ready, we're going to do some head tilts. So I really like to go from my side to the other side, and then also front and backwards. So backwards and forward. And if you'd like, you can gently grab your head, pull it to one side, help feel that tension. Go to the other side, backwards if you'd like, and then forward or backwards. All right, this is the next stretch is called a good morning stretch. It's also an exercise if you weight lift. Usually you would use a barbell, but I like to do it right when I wake up in the morning. So what you're gonna do is you'll have a straight back. You can have your arms up by your head, and we're just gonna lean forward. So we're really gonna feel that stretch in our hamstrings, and you can either stay in this position or go back to standing for a moment, and then lean over again. We'll do this for a few times. Really feel it in your hamstrings. One more. All right. For the next one, we'll do a chest stretch. So if you're able to have both your hands grab behind your back, and we're just gonna lift our arms behind us. So we're really feeling this in our pecs. Great stretch for our chest, for our shoulders, our back, our arms. If you need to go back down for a moment and reset, definitely do that. But we're just trying to hold it up. And you can look up, have your chest up if you'd like. Really try and feel that stretch. Awesome. So the next stretch we're gonna do is great for if you work at your desk for a while. It'll be a wrist stretch. So we have our arms out. We're pulling our fingers down. And we're just feeling that all up along our arm and our inner arm. And after a few moments, we'll go ahead and flip our hand over. So now our palm is facing toward, our fingers are towards us, and we'll pull it backwards. And when you're ready, we'll switch to the other side. So you can start with your hand down or your hand up, and just pull it towards you. And then the other way. So we're doing wrist extension and wrist flexion. All right. For the next pose, we're gonna go ahead and get on the ground. So we'll sit on the ground. All right. Have your feet about shoulder width apart. And what we're gonna do is we'll have our hands out in front of us. And we're just gonna have our hand touch our opposite leg. So we're gonna try and touch that pinky toe, like we're sawing off the pinky toe. And then come back. Oh, here's Momo. And then the other side. He's trying to de-stress with us. He's had a very stressful morning trying to get food. We'll just do this a few times. One more. All right. For a seated glute stretch, what I like to do is I'll bring my knees into a triangle, and then, and then have one knee resting over it. So we're really feeling that in our glutes.
That's why I locked my dog out.
Okay.
He jumped straight onto me.
When you're ready, you can switch to your other side. And I like to try and push my knee down so I feel it more in my glute. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and go into the cat-cow. So for a cat-cow, you have all on all fours. And for cat, we're bringing our belly button to our spine. So we're inhaling, bringing it to our spine. And then exhaling and going into cow. And we'll try and look up toward cow. Go into cat, belly button to spine. And then to cow. We'll just do this a few moments. Before we go on to the next slide, we'll just take a few moments in child pose. So you can either have your feet together or your knees apart, and we'll just lean into a child's pose. So our forehead will rest on the ground for a few moments. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and come on up. If you want to take a screenshot or a picture of this stretching routine on your phone, it's a great one to do if you're trying to, just de-stress after a long day or a stressful moment, or even before bed. It's a great thing to do. So I'll give you a moment now to take a picture if you'd like. But if not, we'll go ahead and go back to our other slide. So one way to combat stress is what we did. We took a few moments for ourselves, focused on our physical wellness, stretched out our muscles. Remember, our muscles hold a lot of tension when we're stressed out. But some other ways to deal with stress is to acknowledge our feelings. Sometimes we'll just try and, brush past it, be like, oh, okay, like I'm busy, I need to move on. But I think it's really important to take a step back, acknowledge your thoughts. Your feelings are very valid. It all happens for a reason. And it's important to be kind to yourself. Our words affect us in more ways than we think. So try and, compliment yourself once a day, say, I did well today. Like I dealt with a stressful situation, but I did the best I could. We talked about creating boundaries. SMART goals is a great way to do that. Also, practice saying no. I've been doing that lately, and it's been helping me. You don't have to do everything, Other people are there for a reason. It's not all your job. Getting active, stretching, yoga, Pilates, anything. It doesn't even have to be exercising. You could just take a few moments to get up from your desk, to stretch, go look outside the window, anything that you enjoy that's kind of like a physical activity. Definitely set aside the time to do that. Don't think you're too busy to do it. Really try and give those moments to yourself. And then I put eating the rainbow. Our body affects our mind, and our mind has an effect on our body, like when we get stressed. So trying eating, quality food is really important. Even if you're busy, we'll talk about some recipes that you can do that are very quick, that you can get done. And when you're stressed, take a few moments to laugh. We learned about laughing is a great medicine. It really helps to boost your mood. You get those endorphins and it makes you happy. It really does have a great effect. I was stressed last week, and I went on my phone, I laughed at something, and I was like, that was great. It was a good break for me. So those are some ways that you can combat stress. And now Oggie will talk about how he deals with it as an athlete, or the stress they go through.
Thank you. Speak about student athlete and the stress for how it affects them. It's really important because people don't realize that student athletes are they're encountering unique stress factors that our general student population does not always face. Because of this, student athletes can be at a higher risk of anxiety and depression. Athletes stress over performance. They are often pressured to push themselves to the limit, knowing that bad performance can affect relationship with coaches as well as a decrease in scholarship. They are also pressured academically. If a student athlete doesn't maintain a specific GPA, they will not be allowed to compete. They will also have, in my case, if I don't have a high GPA, I'll basically have to go back to Serbia, and I just wasted my 2, 3, 4 years of school. So it's a really high pressure. So they also have more pressure with their social lives. One bad post on social media or one slip up with school authorities might find an athlete suspended from a team. All of this is added up on top of the regular pressures of being a student, like studying for a big exam, adjusting to living alone, and balancing time for a healthy social life. So athletes have less time in their day to deal with the average problems of being a student. Time management is extremely important, and it is not uncommon for an athlete to slip up and make a simple mistake. Whether or not you are suffering from a depression or anxiety, it is important to know the symptoms of it. So that way you will be able to recognize a teammate or a friend going through these things. And sometimes a caring friend is all that it takes to make someone feel better. Also, you might be so caught up in your busy schedule, you even realize you have been showing symptoms of anxiety, depression, like in my case that I had problems last year. So symptoms can include changes in sleeping patterns, sudden weight or hair loss, weight loss, especially with student athletes, tightness or pain in chest, weakening immune system, high blood pressure or elevated heart rate, decrease in social activity, uh, headaches, anxiety attacks, lack of energy. So that's all noticeable on the court. So although stress might be seem overwhelming, it can definitely be overcome. Here's some positive ways to deal with the stress. So first one is get a hobby. Sometimes is it good to have a getaway from your athletic life? Athletes can often struggle with overthinking or overtraining. A hobby is a great way to forget about your athletic struggles and to focus on something fun. So try to pick something that is completely unrelated to playing a sport, like playing an instrument or learning how to cook, and you can still get the same feeling of accomplishment this way, except there is no pressure to it. So why not make it fun? Personally, I started learning how to cook recently, and I found such a relaxing thing to do because I'm not occupied by school or basketball, which was the case all the time when I was here before. So it really feels great to not think about it. And also, I started reading some science fiction books, which is really entertaining to me, and it also helps to escape a little bit from ordinary life and thoughts. The second one is talk it out. Often people do not want to admit that they are feeling down, and they keep all their anxiety bottled up. Try finding a close friend to talk to. Your friend does not have to try to give you advice. All they need to do is listen. People often think that things are a bigger deal in their head than they really are. By talking things out, you are letting out steam, and sometimes that is all that it takes to make you feel better. And for number three, don't make your support your only life, which was my problem again. Basketball was my whole life for my whole year. I started playing basketball when I was 5, and I was surrounded only by basketball. And when I was 15, I realized that could be cause a lot of problems because I don't have life outside of that. So I started socializing more. I started uh, talking to more people, trying to find new hobbies, to try to do more things, and it definitely helped me a little bit. Uh, so although it's very important to focus on your sport is everything, as I already said. So there is a life outside of athletics. So try to be active more with your friends and family, which is a crucial thing. Uh, for accept bad things that are going to happen. We are not all perfect, and it is healthy to realize that bad things are going to happen. But it is okay, because learning from your mistakes will make you a stronger and a better person. So everyone has a bad things that happen to them, or a bad day, or a bad week, bad month. And if something goes wrong, take a second to soak it in all, and then simply let it go. By accepting bad things are going to happen, you'll be more prepared for good things that will hit your life. And for number 5, have a cheat day. This is a crucial thing for me because student athletes are always under pressure about staying in shape. Sometimes a strict diet can be stressful, so it's important to have a cheat day for every once in a while. So treat yourself to your favorite ice cream, or go ahead and take down the whole pizza. One cheat day will not affect your overall fitness. If coach is not gonna yell at you because they will not notice anything. So a delicious snack or a treat is a great way to relax and live a little. So now I will let Alyssa talk a little bit about self-care. So here you go.
I figured I'd put a few ideas. We read an article how they describe self-care as nurturing your garden. So that's doing any hobbies that you feel help to improve your mind, or your opportunity for learning. Really just take the time to try and do what you love and be kind to yourself. That could be, sorry, Momo. Basically when you're trying to do things you love, don't feel guilty for doing them. You really need to take the time and be kind to yourself, like I said. And at the break, I said give yourself a break, or at the bottom I said give yourself a break. Take a few moments in between working at your desk for long hours to do something besides work. And one thing that I really love to do for my self-care with dealing with stress is to say words of affirmation. So in the morning when you wake up, try and say things like, I will succeed today. I am worthy of love. I am proud of myself. My potential to succeed is limitless, and I am courageous and will stand up for myself. So those are the ones I love. There's a ton elsewhere, but they're really great. Little words really make the difference, I think, for me in my day. It helps a lot. We'll move on to Oggie now, talking about how COVID has affected how we deal with stress in current times.
Thank you. So stress during COVID-19. Pandemics can be stressful, definitely, and the coronavirus disease or COVID-19 pandemic may be stressful for people and cause a fear and anxiety about disease that and what could happen can be overwhelming and cause strong emotions in adults and children. So public health actions such as social distancing can make people feel isolated and lonely and can increase stress and anxiety. However, these actions are necessary to reduce the spread of COVID-19. So coping with stress in a healthy way will make you and the people you care about and your community stronger. So stress during an infectious disease outbreak can cause fear and worry about your own health and the health of your loved ones, and your financial situation or job or loss of support services you rely on. So, for example, my family in Serbia right now is facing a lockdown because there is a new outbreak of COVID-19 in Europe. So Europe is like really bad right now, and because of that new outbreak, I'm currently really worried of my grandpa and grandma because they're being exposed heavily right now. So that's one of the things that I'm kind of stressing about. So one of the things is how you respond to stress during the COVID-19 pandemic can depend on your background, your social support from family or friends, your financial situation, as already said, and your health and emotional background. So the changes that can happen because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the ways we try to contain the spread of the virus can affect anyone. So people who may respond mostly to the stress of the crisis include probably the most important thing to mention: frontline workers such as healthcare providers and first responders, the people who are fighting every single day to keep us healthy. People who are at higher risk for severe illness from COVID-19, for example, older people and people of any age with certain underlying medical conditions. Children and teenagers, people caring for family members or loved ones, people who have existing mental health conditions, or people who have disabilities or developmental delay or something like that. So actually, when we talk about fighting against stress during COVID-19, yesterday I found out that all winter sports seasons are canceled, which means that we will not play any games this year, and which was really stressful to hear because I was hoping for one thing that will keep me out of my room, but uh, I mean, as already mentioned before, having positive mind, we will keep practicing, so we will have more time to prepare for the next season. We will stay as a group, and I will be able to come back next year and play my last year. So I'm still trying to find a positive side. So that helps me out to go through things like this. And one more thing is to take care of yourself and your community. So taking care of your friends and your family can be a stress reliever, but it should be balanced with care of yourself. So helping others cope with their stress, such as providing social support, can also make your community stronger. So during these times of increased social distancing, people can still maintain social connections and care for their mental health. So phone calls or video chats or can help you and your loved ones feel socially connected, less lonely or isolated, which is very true. I spend most of my time during the day talking to my people from Serbia, especially during the time difference and stuff. So it gives me a lot of comfort, and I feel like almost I'm at home. So that will be it for talking about stress during COVID-19. I will let Alyssa to talk about on-the-go tips and recipes.
Yeah, so to end it off and get you guys on with your day, I figure it's the weekend, so hopefully some of these tips will help you on Monday when it comes. For having yourself ready to be on the go, a morning routine and a night routine are really great to try and practice and do. What I do is I'll wake up at like 6, work out, and then by the time I usually would wake up, I'm already ready to go. But it's hard. You have to start slowly with the morning routine, find out what you like and what you don't, and don't force yourself to do the things you don't like, because then you'll just avoid it and you're not going to want to do it. So find out what works for you, write it down, check it off when you get it done so you feel good, have it be a SMART goal for yourself. And we talked about earlier night routines and how great they are, even if they're a little long. Getting it all done is really great for us. I just wanted to mention some recipes that we can do in a rush, and how leftover foods are honestly your friends. So even if you have just a few things in your house, they're gonna be, your best friend. They're gonna help us. I'll go ahead and go to the next slide, where I put some of my common, very quick recipes. I'll also mention, like, if you have leftover food, one thing I thought was really cool is if you have leftover like pita bread or an English muffin and there's only one, you could put some tomato sauce on it and make a miniature pizza. A crock pot is amazing. I'll like put a bunch of stuff in there. Like, I only have a few pieces of this vegetable and that, and it's like not enough to make a full meal, but just combine it all together, shove it in there. It's great. I mentioned making a little pizza. Some people like to use their leftover tomato soup to make that on it, or even use the soup for pasta sauce. Some people, they're like, I'm not in the mood for soup today, turn it into pasta. Everyone loves pasta. But if you're in a rush, these recipes that I put are honestly amazing. My banana smoothie, it tastes like ice cream. I love it. All I put in is I put 2 bananas, so it's super thick, just a little bit of ice. My serving of peanut butter is like, I'm pretty sure I measured it out, it's like 2 servings. I'll like do 2 big scoops, and you can have a ton of add-ins. But that's just, add-ins are for if you're, having a good day, but if you're stressed, that's really great. Overnight oats are amazing. I'll just put it in a mason jar, water, oatmeal, that's it. Shake it up, put it in the fridge. So that way when I'm heading out the door, I can just grab it. And if you're desperate and it's watery enough, you can just drink it on your way to work. It's great. I put down these banana breakfast cookies. That was one way that I utilized old food. And I used Google. I literally wrote what I had in my pantry, and it brought up a lot of different recipes. So before we end off our presentation, I just figured I would share actually the video that I did for creating those banana recipes. So I'll go ahead and bring that up here.
Wow. That looks good.
It took longer to make because I was filming it, but honestly, it used up the rest of my oatmeal, and I wasn't in the mood to eat it. It was great.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's such a great idea.
it was really great. It utilized the rest of my food that I had in my pantry, and it's super good. And now I have like a great breakfast or snack
Smart.
tonight. Yeah, it was honestly good. So utilizing old food, those bananas I thought were done for, and they worked out good. And I actually could have ate them like normal, but this was funner. But that was a great on-the-go recipe that I had. And we'll just end with talking about how Augie deals with stress, and then we'll finish it off.
Thank you. I'm not a big cook, so I don't know any secret recipes. So I just started like recently learned how to cope with stress. So the biggest two things that I found really helpful is exercise and play with my dogs. Exercise is probably one of the best natural stress relievers, and I was lucky enough to find myself in basketball when I was a kid, as already mentioned, and every time I felt sad or down or stressed, and I always found a basketball practice as a relief because it completely takes my mind off everything that I was thinking before. So exercise is my number one choice of stress relief, and you can see me posing for a picture in my basketball gear. And second one, playing with my dogs. I love my dogs. They're both European breed, and if I try to explain their names in English, it will take me forever. So I'm just look at them. They're both really big, but they're such a babies. Like they're like to cuddle all the time, and I just miss them a lot. And they're probably also one of my biggest stress reliefs. So those two things I recommend. I mean, it doesn't have to be a dog. I mean, Alyssa, you're a cat person, as I see, and I also love cats too. But so I'm just getting a pet. Yeah, so just getting a pet. I think it's a great idea. So those are my two main things. So
Awesome. But yeah, and that is our stretching routine. If you wanted to take a picture of it again, there that is.
yeah.
I love that stretching routine. It really helps me calm down. But that was our workshop on stress. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Thank you for attending.
Thank you so much.